All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. I'm Stephanie Murray. I'm the director of the Center for Cooperative Media at Montclair State University. And today we are here to talk about the state of local news in Hudson County. We're really grateful to you for joining. We do expect a few more people to join over the course of the next 5 to 10 minutes or so you might see them come in. And I invite everyone to introduce yourselves in the chat if you're willing to. We have a small group today, about 20 to 25 people we expect. We will be recording today, and we will send the recording out to everyone who registered for today's discussion after the event. So today's conversation will be hosted by John Heinis of Hudson County View. And before I hand it over to John, I just want to say thank you again from the center and tell you why we're doing this. So the Center for Cooperative Media for the last almost 13 years now has studied and supported the local news ecosystem in New Jersey. And recently, as everyone on this call knows, NJ Advanced Media made quite an announcement when they said that they would cease print of their printed products. The printed products will still continue online, but won't be printed any longer. And that will include the closure of the newspaper in Jersey City, the Jersey Journal, which has been there for more than 150 years. That obviously will mean a big change for people who live in Hudson County and people who live in Jersey City. However, that does not mean there is no news and information. And it could bring up other opportunities for people like us, people in New Jersey, to support the growth of news and information in any kind of vacuum that might appear after the Jersey Journal shuts down. So that's why we have a really great group of people here today to talk about what is actually happening on the ground in Hudson County, because there are some incredibly bright spots in local news. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to John. John will lead our panel discussion today. And we really do want to have lots of opportunity for Q&A. All of the people here today are here to not only talk about what they do, but to have a conversation with you. So please drop your questions in the chat and we will get to them. So with that, John, I'll hand it over to you. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, NJ News Comments, and thank you, fellow reporters, content creators, for joining us today. So for those of you who may not know me, I'm John Heinis from Hudson County View. I started this news website in June 2014. I have a communication skills degree from Rutgers University, and within about a year to a year and a half of graduating, I had some small news jobs. I was working in Passaic County, Patterson Press, Passaic County Pulse, some small publications before I got an internship at the Jersey Journal. And I did the North Hudson political beat, well, I guess the government beat to be more precise, but, so that's when I started to meet people in, North Bergen, Union City, West New York, Weehawken, and Guttenberg. And I started doing a lot of political coverage, which I had done before. Actually, my earliest writing jobs were in sports, but, that's way in the rear view now. But doing politics and hard news and government, like lawsuits, like, looking at overtime through Oprah, like going to press conferences, all that stuff, for a good probably 13 years now. So, we basically focus on Hudson County View, me and the reporters that have come up through me in the past decade or so. We have a strong focus on the harder side of things. We cover, again, a lot of lawsuits. We go to pretty much every council meeting in Bayonne, Hoboken, Jersey City, and we try to get to the North Hudson Commissioners meetings on and off. But so a heavy emphasis on what's happening in government. I do a lot of reporting on the ELEC filings, which you guys hopefully know is the campaign finance reports, on the state, county, and municipal level, and then also some FEC reports. I mean, for the first time in a long time, we had a competitive primary in the 8th Congressional District. So that's for the federal side, Congress, Senate, President. So, and I still do a lot of Oprah requests throughout various municipalities, things like police body cam, things like overtime pay, so on and so forth. So again, like what we do is largely based on government and politics. We have a heavy emphasis on election cycles. And a lot of people come to us on the day-to-day election coverage. Like, for example, today in Jersey City, the Ward E councilman announced his Ward E running mate. And James Sullivan, as many of you know, is running for mayor in Jersey City. So that was a pretty big development because it was kind of looked at as anyone that he puts on his ticket in Ward E is kind of just going to be anointed, as they often say around here. So with that said, we just wanted to have this conversation to try to get a feel for what everyone else is up to and what everyone else's mindset is going to be with the Jersey Journal's closure, as Stephanie mentioned. So, I think everyone gets the point. I mean, obviously I'll be here the whole time. So if anyone has any questions, happy to answer. But with that, I think we're ready to hear from everybody else.
All
Yeah,
right, let's go ahead and bring our panelists up then. Stephanie, you want to introduce them and I'll bring them up one by one?
No, John, I'll let John do that. Yep.
Okay, sure. So the first person that I see in the grid is John Pinho.
Well, I grew up in Harrison, and I set up 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now, a site called yourharrison.com. Purpose of, if you know Harrison, used to be one side of the town was residential, the other side was industrial. I sat as initial commissioner of the Harrison Redevelopment Agency, and over 26 years now, the other side of town, or the southern side of town, is no longer industrial. It's a residential community. So my idea was to get the information out about Harrison, both the community wise, what's going on, what groups are meeting, what they're doing, what's breakfast with Santa, to covering council meetings. Harrison does not have any recording of council meetings, either audio or video. And many of times there are very few people from the public who go. That has increased. And I'm hoping that it's because of yourharrison.com bringing attention to certain issues. Also quality of life issues. People have been showing up and asking for things. And it seems to be helping our democracy. The Jersey Journal closing to me means very little, because Jersey Journal never really covered Harrison. Very rare for them to do it. They rarely went to council meetings. So it does not do an impact to me, the Jersey Journal leaving the space. And it's difficult, as an individual. I use virtual assistant as well to write stuff, to cover things. So I try to do a consistent job every week. I go to meetings, the town meetings principally, Harrison redevelopment meeting. There's a big thing that's not the media has not covered generally, except for New Jersey Spotlight News, that they're putting a toxic sludge plant, open pit, in Harrison. They're also taking over an area that was just supposed to be a community center, a green space and a turnaround for the path. If you've ever been to the path in Harrison, you can know why the traffic is terrible. So it'd be lovely to have a turnaround drop-off zone. So there are things like that the mainstream media, which we consider the mainstream media, does not cover and is unknown. And I did a whole story on how the mayor of Harrison, Mayor James Fife, and James Doran, the commissioner of Passaic Valley, is also the director of human resources at the Harrison School, and no one was covering the story. They lied about the sludge plant coming, and no one covered it. So I try not to be only politics, but politics isn't everything. I try to bring out the news about the local clubs or what they're doing. And just scrolling the website, this is the main page, the stories for 2 years. I love it because I'm able to get the information out, and that's basically people are starting to pick up on. Harrison is the redevelopment has changed Harrison. It's no longer industrial, and I am adamant that the mayor should not be supporting a toxic sludge plant literally across the street from a residential zone. As a resident, 4 major modern luxury apartment buildings. And anyone outside of Harrison that I speak to that's not the mayor and council, they are like, really? That's what they're doing across the street? Yes, that's what they plan to do. It's going to be done. It's going to take at least 10 years of this property. They, at a meeting of EPA at NJIT a couple months ago, they said it may be 15 to 20 years. Okay. So that is dramatic. It took 26 years to get to the point we're at, and no one is covering this story except NJ Spotlight News. That's it. Nobody else covered it.
Thank you, John. Very informative. It sounds like you're doing some nice work over there. We got to touch base on some of that for sure. But with that, I see we have Neidy and Adrienne from Slice of Culture.
Hello, my name is Neidy and this is Adrienne, and we're the co-founders of Slice of Culture. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for reaching out to have us here. We started Slice of Culture in 2020. It's an online publication where we cover the diverse community here in Hudson County, North Hudson, Jersey City, and looking to expand into New Jersey in itself. Our main focus is just giving a platform for the community to have a place where they can, see themselves highlighted. We started off with wanting to do more of like the covering the local bodegas, the life here of the cultures here. But quickly we learned that obviously it's important to cover the news, the politics in the county. And I think what's so great about what we've been able to do is also we give a platform for the locals to be themselves a storyteller of the community. So we've been able to, partner up with universities to have people learn how to tell stories and be part of our team to help with the coverage of Hudson County.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that, behind the reason of why we started it. So we were literally graduating from St. Peter's University amidst the pandemic, and didn't really know what the future held for us. And I actually formerly worked for the Jersey Journal between 2018 and 2021. And I quickly realized there were some gaps, as great as the Jersey Journal was for especially Jersey City. Majority of other Hudson County towns weren't getting the platform that they also deserved. Neidy's from West New York, and I'm from the west side of Jersey City, which it didn't get a lot of coverage in traditional publications. So us being born and raised here, we figured that we start something ourselves and really use it as a platform to elevate people in our community, people like us, and also encourage people of our generation, the younger generation and demographic, to really care about their what's happening in the communities, to get more involved with local politics and whatnot, because at the end of the day, it will be us sooner or later. And also thanks to the NJ Civic Information Consortium, they've been able to fund us for the last 2-3 years, which has helped us create a pipeline with the younger aspiring journalists or community storytellers, as Neidy had mentioned. So we're really just trying to build a platform for everyone where we could share all of our stories. So with the Jersey Journal now gone, obviously we're trying to help fill that gap, but also stay true to our mission as well.
Thank you very much. Definitely a very thorough synopsis. I think, you guys are doing some nice work in your own right, for sure. So someone that I've known for a long time, I mean, probably since the first week that I started working in Hudson, and that's Al Sullivan of TAPinto.
I come from a slightly different background than the rest of you. I started with radical publications in the 70s, such as the East Village Other and the LA Free Press. In the 80s, I wound up as editor. I went to William Patterson College, and I wound up as editor of their literary magazine, which was my inspiration and my aspiration at the time. Started an underground newspaper in the 80s that eventually went online. Then I got a legitimate news job with Wayne Today newspapers covering Patterson and Passaic Valley, which I did for about 2 years, and then wound up with the Hudson Reporter in Hudson County, where I remained until 2017, 18, I think, yeah. And I was a political reporter plus general reporter. Now I'm with TAPin, and we're basically trying to duplicate the model of the community newspaper, which is, you cover the news stories, you cover the council meetings, but you also cover the community events, which means, going to Santa Claus arriving in town or tree lightings and events like that. The Jersey Journal's loss is because it is covering the bigger stories, and sometimes, they never really covered the community the way the Hudson Reporter did, the way we're trying to. And that's one of the losses, is we've lost a lot of community newspapers. and they have to be online. I mean, at this point, the cell phone, most people, young people especially, are getting their news on the phone and not in print. The cost of print is outrageous, and delivery and all of the other things. But there are more than enough sites in Hudson County to be able to handle some of this. Hudson County View, as pointed out, has scooped me many times before we went online. And it's a valuable resource, but there's things like, Hoboken Girl, Patch, many of these others are filling in the gaps and in some ways exceeding what the Jersey Journal is capable of doing. I do not really see that the loss of the journal is a loss of journalism, since there are so many other people who are out there in the community and being very active. A lot of the hard news is being done by Hudson County View or the Jersey City Times, but there are a lot of gaps that need to be filled in the regular community, which is what our job is. We have 3 reporters in Hudson County covering Jersey City, Bayonne, and Hoboken. So we think we're in a position to be able to fill in those, what we perceive as gaps. Am I supposed to keep talking?
No, you're good, man. Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Always appreciate you. Now next in the queue, we have Jen from Hoboken Girl.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay, perfect. My name is Jen Tripucka. I am the founder of the Hoboken Girl, as well as the Local Girl Media Group, which is started really small as just me exploring Hoboken in 2012 when I was much younger. And now it's grown into a multi-city brand where we have 5 full-time employees, as well as a team. And we, in general, my background is actually, just for context of the area, I moved to Hoboken in the almost 2 decades ago now. My grandparents had textile businesses and factories in the Hudson County area, so I've always been connected to the area. My parents worked in those arenas as well. And when I moved to Hoboken, I felt like there was a gap in some of the coverage even then, but didn't really, have a full desire to create something right out of the box. I was working, my background is from Lehigh University in education, counseling, psychology, and communications. And I was working as an educator in the Newark Public Schools as well as the Bloomfield Public Schools. Started Hoboken Girl and really just loved to write. In 8th grade, I had started a townwide newspaper in my small hometown of, 2,000 people. And it was always just in my blood, I realized. So when I started Hoboken Girl, it was really just a lifestyle site to document my business interactions and the things that I was loving about the area. I soon realized I didn't want it to be about myself. I wanted it to be about the community. At the time, blogging was really the thing, but I realized that I wanted to focus more on the big picture. So we slowly over time grew Hoboken Girl. I worked at Condé Nast for 2 years. In the interim, I left education. I worked as a digital editor there, and gained a lot of experience in the editorial field on the lifestyle side, as well as in social media. They asked me to be a social media director pretty quickly out of the gate while I was there, really having no other experience besides my communications degree. So I went from Condé Nast to running Hoboken Girl full-time in 2017. And at that point, I started to build a team and have contributors write content, reporters do different things throughout the community. Our focus is really a mix. We have always been heavier on the lifestyle content, which is all about the neighborhood stories, the community events, small businesses, new businesses, longtime businesses. We're really big on our social media presence, which I think kind of creates an avenue to really create community. We have a Facebook group filled with 50,000 people. We have, hundreds of thousands of social media followers, which I think, contributes to our reach as far as our publication. And the thing that we really like to focus on is, events, lifestyle. We have a whole events calendar that's very, very comprehensive. We have a lot of real estate news. We have a jobs board. We have all about how to create community with our readers and have volunteering opportunities that we even host in the community. So we've kind of branched that line between online publication, but also creating community in person in the area. We've hosted massive large-scale events throughout the community, as well as online events, virtual events during the pandemic. We've hosted volunteer events. Every quarter we host business owner networking events. So we're very much in the community and very focused on it. I myself am a Hoboken resident and have been for almost the last 2 decades. And I think I just view our brand as a resource. In 2021, we launched the Montclair Girl. We've also launched the Jersey Shore Girl, as well as the Bergen County Girl in 2024. So we're expanding. I in 2022 launched a hyperlocal news learning capsule network where I created a whole course on how to start your own hyperlocal brand and how to start your own media brand and be able to monetize. Because I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of news organizations struggle with is how to put out news and then also how to fund your news company. And so, that is something that we have been, working on. Of course, we're in a little bit more of the lifestyle space, but we do cover a lot of things. We just had an article recently go out. Is Hoboken the beauty capital of New Jersey? We created that just in talks with and looking at the actual per capita data in the area. We have some amazing journalists on our staff, as well as some freelancers. We really cover everything from the rats problem in Hoboken to, the new businesses coming to Jersey City to the local neighborhood, just in general, the local neighborhood happenings. And so we're really excited to be here and appreciative of the Center for Cooperative Media, who I've known for years, learned so much from them, invite me here to share. I do also want to just share about the future, my thoughts on the future of news a little bit. I really think that it's a really interesting time because online news, even in a completely digital company like ours, you're kind of competing with those, or you can turn them into your community, those other platforms, right? So that's something that I think is just important to think about when we're thinking about news in Hudson County. There are Facebook groups that probably half of us don't even know about that are happening, and they're sharing all the things happening, or, different threads or the Citizens app. So it's kind of figuring out how to work collaboratively with those pieces of community that the residents have full access to. So it's, a very interesting time, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Thank you, Jen. Very comprehensive, much appreciated. So I see we got 27 people on the call, but some do not have a news organization affiliated. So I'm not sure how
Yeah,
many.
I think we have, hold on, I think we have one more person on the Don Tagala from ABS-CBN. I think we're still missing Aaron Morrill, but we have Don Tagala here as well. So we want to make sure he has a chance to introduce himself. Don, are you there? Can you unmute and turn on your video and you can introduce yourself?
Hey, hi. I'm sorry I don't have a video, but my name is Don Tagala. I used to work for ABS-CBN News. Oh, hold on. And I was just laid off recently. So ABS-CBN News is the biggest Filipino channel, but there's been a lot of layoffs after a former president of the Philippines tried to shut us down back during the pandemic. You know, I've been covering the Filipino American community on the East Coast, you know, from Miami to Maine. But now I think we're just going to be freelancing at this time. And I don't really know exactly yet what's going to happen next. So that's me, Don Tagala.
Thanks, Todd. Short and sweet.
John, you want to take it away? We had a couple of questions on the agenda that we wanted folks to just sort of talk about, including like sort of their view of the news ecosystem in Hudson County, where it is today, what's been going on with some of the changes, how they expect these things to evolve over time. So I'm just going to spotlight our panelists up here. We're going to have as many of us up here as we can, so that folks can sort of respond and give their take on, you know, what the state of the news ecosystem is in Hudson County and what do you think these developments mean, and what can we expect to see from you and how you all will be adapting.
Sure. So, yeah, I'll start. So, look, as far as what happens after February 1st, I'm not entirely sure. So, I mean, I don't want to just, you know, state some grandiose plan and then nothing happens. But what I do know is I do know that we're going to bring out at least one, maybe two other people. And I'm pretty sure we're going to do a site rebrand. But other than that, I don't think the actual name of the game for me changes. I mean, I'm still going to go to a lot of council meetings. I'm still going to go to a lot of press conferences. I'm going to do a lot of Oprahs. I'm going to stay heavy on the hard news. So, you know, stuff like maybe you guys saw on Friday, there's this crazy lawsuit at the County Schools of Technology. The secretary's alleging he had an 18-year affair with the superintendent. I mean, that's not something that should be ignored, obviously, and it got picked up by a couple outlets. But, you know, that's not something that everyone wants to sink their teeth into. But I'm more than happy to do that kind of stuff. I will continue to do that kind of stuff. You know, occasionally we'll do something that's a feel-good thing. Like we had a Christmas story the other day about some lights going up in Jersey City's Ward A. But, you know, that's not really our bag right now. You know, when I bring someone else on, I don't know what that'll be. Maybe they'll just do crime. Maybe they'll just do community events. Maybe they'll do some high school sports. I don't know yet. But as far as me personally, I don't think I'm going to change my approach much, if at all. So, you know, but curious what you guys think, though. So I guess we'll just go in order. Al, what's your take?
Well, I think the loss of the Jersey Journal is because they do have the prestige and they could go into a community and cover things sometimes we can't, or it's less comfortable. But we're going to have to step up our game because there is news out there, as you pointed out, and you scooped me on that story with the schools of technology again, is that these things are going on and we're the watchdogs. I mean, we're trying to duplicate what the Hudson Reporter did to some degree, which is a combination of hard news and soft news plus community events. I mean, we all have to step up because there's so much going on in this county. The Jersey Journal had been fading away for a long time, and they weren't really covering the nuts and bolts of a lot of these communities. Your work and the Jersey City Times have been scooping them more than they were breaking stories. I think we're in a position, all of these people here, to cover aspects of it that no daily would touch anyway. But it's part of the community. I mean, you know, I'm doing most of what I do is about community itself, what they're doing, what meetings are coming, what events are coming, and the characters that make up the community. Whether, you know, it doesn't have to be a scandal like the schools of technology, but there's other stuff that goes on in there that needs to be covered. Craig Guy recently appeared at the Bayonne facility to emphasize vocational training. That's news too. And that's basically, we have to somehow cover all of that, which really wasn't covered by the daily anyway. So we just have to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, Al. Thanks for your input. But I imagine we're going to hear some similar things like that. But let's continue. So, Jen, what do you think?
You know, I think a lot of people get their news on social media now, when we're talking nationally. So I think that locally, that's a piece that is really important, especially for the younger generations. You know, that oftentimes news can be shared like wildfire, and it might not even be correct, but it's on a Reddit thread, or it's on Facebook, or it's on a social media thing. And I think it's important that we have our outlets and the outlets in general that do verify sources and have these very important fact-checking kind of atmospheres, because that is sometimes can be a story in itself, and it's working, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, working collaboratively with neighborhood groups and hearing something, but perhaps then being able to, as a journalist, dive deeper into it to learn more, share facts about it. I think that's going to be crucial for the new wave.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. But let's see what's going on the slice of culture perspective here.
I think that, like Jen said, a lot of people nationally, locally are getting their news online, and it's continuing to make sure that we are properly checking our sources, also covering both sides of stories, doing follow-ups when possible on stories, so that the community doesn't feel like they've just been covered once and forgotten. Doing what we've been doing, but also just, training our team as well, training community members to be curious, why are things happening in the community, where are funding going, why, how, the 5 W's that our professors, taught us in college, so that they can also be watchdogs of the community as well with us.
Yeah, and I think also to add, what I personally would like to see is, because I used to work at the Jersey Journal, so a lot of times, and I'm sure you guys can contest to this, back then, different publications were often competing with each other. And when I was at the Journal, it was always kind of fighting for, different perspective, different angle, better angle. And what I personally would like to see, and I think is a way that Hudson County in general, or just journalism in general, could flourish, is if we try to work together in a way, as John had, or Al had mentioned, just really stepping it up, but also, just trying to help on each other out. We cover kind of different areas and different stores and whatnot, because not all of us could be at different places at once. So, by really catering to our specific audience, I think can really help just the journalism ecosystem. And then I see Simon has a question there in the chat. Something that we do a lot is we, rather than, just joining virtual.
Could you just hold off on that? Because I'll ask the question on the next round, but I want to get just John's general perspective, and then we'll come back, okay?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna touch on that. We, aside from joining virtual groups or apps and whatnot, we actually do go into the community, as in, like, if someone invites us to a, local event that's not really publicized, but it is a social gathering, we do go to it, we interact with people, and we just make the time for the community. So I think by just doing what we all do, trying to collaborate with each other more will be more beneficial.
Okay. And John, I think in your intro, you largely answered this question, so I don't know if there's really anything for you to add, but you have the floor if you'd like to say something.
Just want to say an extraordinary group. You can see that they're talking about the same thing, and you've got two, I'm up there in age, but you've got what I consider the youth really gets what this is all about. And then we've got experienced people here like Al, who's done stuff since that was a sign. And then you have someone that's been very successful, yourself and Jennifer, who just described she's got a course on how to do this, which is I'm interested in. So that each of us just take us one piece and just try to do your piece well. It expands out. That's I can't do everything. I decided I'm going to do a little bit, and I'm doing my little bit. If everybody does their little bit, this is going to be a great filling in the gaps that need to be filled in. So, okay, I will stop talking because I've said
Okay. But yeah, I mean, look, if I'll throw out a sports analogy, like we can't all be the quarterback. Someone's got to block, someone's got to tackle, someone's got to catch the passes, etc. So everybody has their their niche, and I don't think that's going to change, but I guess maybe the way that we collaborate could change. And, a couple of people touched on that. So there's quite a few things that are coming through the chat right now. So, well, quickly, one of them was, could folks share how they listen to the community to identify and meet local info needs? So for me, actually, in my experience, I think one of the best places to not only hear new information, but actually meet people is to go to the council meetings and, the planning board, zoning board, whatever, the government meetings. The reason I say that is because the public portion, even if it's like the same 12 people, which a lot of times it is, they'll talk about different stuff. And also they get to see you in person. They put a name to the face. And then, like, you never know, like weeks, months, years down the line, they'll call you on something else that's completely unrelated, like, their apartment's infested with rats or whatever it is. So, or, they couldn't get a zoning approval because, I don't know, their cousin's brother's nephew broke up with somebody 20 years ago, whatever. So so, like, I think it's important that as much as we do remote work these days, and, it should be a fair amount of that, but I think it's important to actually meet people where they are and actually listen to what they're saying, even if it's not a news story, because, again, they're accustomed to your face, your name, your work, and it makes them more comfortable with you, and they'll be more willing to share. So, I know some of you have already weighed in on this, but we'll still go around. Actually, we'll go in reverse this time. John, anything on that?
Else?
Oh,
Uh, Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that. I just think we just do our individual piece and maybe collaborate with others and just do things like this meeting. And I definitely think going to meetings gets you stories that you may be there for one thing and you get another story, and that happens a lot.
Sure. And
So-
Slice, you guys pretty much just answered that.
I want to hear more from
go in a
Slice. Wait,
sentence.
Slice, can you go into a little more details, Neidy and Adrienne? I'm sorry, John.
It's okay. But I was going to say, if you want to add a sentence or two, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like Adrienne said, we, make ourselves available to go to events that we're invited to or that we see being publicized. Like recently we went to a small business networking event in Jersey City, met people who are looking to start business, who have been longtime business owners, to just hear what are some of their concerns, hear obviously what are some resources that the county, that the city have for these small businesses, so that then we can be able to share that with obviously our audiences and other people in the county. Also just making the time as well to go to council meetings, here in West New York, Union City, Jersey City, and just really being active in the community. Even if we're just grabbing lunch, we'll interact with the business owners, with the customers, see, what type of communication and connection can we have with these people.
Yeah, like she mentioned, a lot of times we spend a lot of time outside in the community. We go to different cafes. We go to Bergen Lafayette, we go to West Side, we go to Greenville. And I think more than just going to council meetings, because a lot of times, especially people our age, they don't know how to access that or they're afraid to access that. So I think really going into their areas, spending time to talk to them. We've met a lot of people just having lunch, and then they ask what we do and we tell them, and they want to connect with us and they introduce us to different people. So I think just being really genuine about it is how we could really prosper in that.
And also using social media. So sometimes we'll, post a story and just ask people, how do you feel about a certain news that was put out there, or what do you think about our work? What do you think that are still gaps that we're missing? How can we improve? What are your needs? Just to get a better understanding, what they need. Because at the end of the day, we want to also be able to something that they can come to and trust to get news or just happenings.
I love that with these. I was going to say, just to truly piggyback on that, because I think similar with the local girl brands, we do a lot on social media for outreach, and we also have a very interactive community. We don't just put out content. We are constantly getting feedback from our readers. We are getting DMs, we are getting emails, and we use those as tools to create our content at times. And I think that's a really important thing. The community wants to be heard and felt like they're represented in various ways. So we rely on DMs, as silly as that sounds, because it actually matters and it creates a ripple effect of trust. They know that, hey, even though you might not have the answer at this moment, we always say, oh, we'll get back to you. We're going to look into that, or we're going to write a piece on this. Stay tuned. So we're very interactive. It's not just a one-sided conversation where we're just pushing out information. I also think, too, with my site, having reporters and writers who are of different backgrounds, who grew up in different areas of the entire Hudson County area, and really diversifying who we have as writers is really crucial in our work, because we want to represent different people in different areas and communities and tell their stories. So it's probably similar to the ladies at Slice, because I think that's a really important part of being a comprehensive platform. As well as just, even regardless of your niche, very important to be valuable in that way. And people want to see people like themselves and understand that they have connections to the outlet in more than just information being spit at them.
Sure. Al, anything you want to add here?
Well, one of the things that I do a lot is walk around the community, not just because there's events, but you can find stories in odd places. One of them I'm thinking of is that there's a historic, long time appliance store in Bayonne, and I was walking back from a meeting and I went by it, and they had this ancient washing machine in front of it, their store, for years. And then suddenly one day it's pink. And I go walking in there and he goes, I didn't mean to be pink. And it's not about Barbie, but it was a story because it's still pink. Some other stories, you can find stories. When I was covering for Hudson Reporter, there was a concrete plant in Secaucus that was abandoned, and suddenly one day I'm walking by it, and there's all of these decorations on it. And some artists had come in, not named, nobody was going to even notice it. It was just one of those, like the art and sand that was meant to go away. And so I interviewed the artists and it became a story. These are called walkarounds. I do a lot of walking around. The other day I went down to the Bruce Springsteen movie in Bayonne and talked to the guards, and they managed to get me in there a little bit closer. Didn't see anybody, the big stars, but those are the kind of stories you can't find unless you go into the community. And it can't just be meetings. I mean, you can walk into a store that's been there a long time and talk to the owner. They have a better feel of what the community is all about. And sometimes you can get odd stories out of that. And I do that a lot. I try to do a walk around in Bayonne and Jersey City once a week.
All right, all good points. So yeah, I mean, in summation, don't get too comfortable in your living room, keep your DMs open, and make sure you got email alerts on. So with that, there's quite a few things percolating in the chat here. So one of which is, what is everyone's opinion on the challenges and opportunities in your local news ecosystems? What are you worried about? What is needed? Investment, support, talent, etc. So Al, we'll let you start this time.
Well, there's two big problems emerging now, and it affects us because we're all online. The Jersey Journal and the Star Ledger deciding not to operate, that, they put us all in the same category as far as legal ads. Municipalities and county government are supposed to put in legal ads according to paid print. Well, there's no more print. And so that's a battle that's going on right now in Trenton because they have to do it soon. apparently the Star Ledger is fighting not to allow smaller venues to get those legal ads. It's going to be an issue for us because that's a revenue source. We're now on equal platform with them. And if we aren't entitled to it, you can't give a monopoly to something that's no longer what it used to be. So it's something to watch for the future because legal ads are required, and there's several aspects. One wants to only do it on municipal websites. The problem is not all municipal websites are equal. Some really stink and they're not kept up. And so we are the logical place where those ads should go.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I just talked about this maybe, I don't know, a week and a half ago with Joe and Stephanie. And my humble suggestion to the group as a whole is if we get to this point where there's going to be a bill in front of the legislature, I mean, I think we're should put our heads together and make it an effort to go down there and testify. I mean, this is a monumental opportunity, in my opinion, as you kind of said, because this is potentially tens of thousands of dollars to each
So
respective outlet. Because, like you said, as written, it needs to be a print publication, and now there is not one. So, that's all I'll say on that. But we'll keep it going, Jen.
Yeah, so I think I don't want to call them challenges, but I spoke a little bit about it earlier in the local news ecosystem is just essentially trying to work with the local community groups and forums and all of those things that do pass around news and be the more verified source for them. Because I think there's a lot of, we talked about earlier a little bit, the distrust in the media world these days of who's aligned with what, who's backing what, who's this and that. And so it's important, I think, as an independently owned outlet and just outlets that we really just work to continue to put out good content that is verifiable, factual, and most importantly, listens to the community, but also has that focus where it goes deeper into the stories versus just surface level, which I think is sometimes the social media of it all, where it's just the headline and no one has any context and they don't care to get context. And just kind of trying to figure out how to make people want the context in the future, because I do think that I'm guilty of it myself. You see a headline and you just say, oh, okay, that's what happened, and then move on. And maybe there's a lot more to the story, as we all know as journalists.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to get people to click through on everything. So I don't know what the solution is, but maybe we could come up with something over time. But ladies from Slice, what do you think?
Yeah, one of the things that we are worried about is just we don't want there to be, lack of accountability being held, to politicians or just the community itself. But I think that in how we can work with that is just obviously continue to do what we're doing, strengthen our skills, also be open to the idea of collaborating, as it's already been discussed, with each other. We all excel in different ways. We all have our own community that we already connect with, and seeing how we can obviously work together to expand that as well. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
Yeah, and then like already been mentioned, another challenge or concern is just building up Slice of Culture financially, because we come from journalism communication background, so math is not our best suit. And especially, us being of the younger generation, it can be very hard to navigate, and we are in a way, at least for people of our community or even people like of our families, we're kind of trailblazing and trying to figure out, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, business owner, and whatnot. And also a challenge, since a lot of our demographic, our audience, they're, younger, or they come from working class families, or a lot of times also immigrant families, so they don't always have the funds to offer for like a newsletter subscription or a donation. So we're really trying to find that middle ground where we can generate some organic revenue, but also, you know, still be accessible for our community.
Got it. Okay, very cool. And John, any thoughts?
You know, time, if you're, you know, doing this, you're not doing this full time, dedicating specific amount of time to doing it consistently, and not get overwhelmed. You know, you can't cover everything. So the way I've approached it is I do what I can do. I try to be consistent, and I hear the financial part of it. I happen to be in a different state of you know, ability to fund it myself, and but I understand that, you know, it's not a model. You know, it's for revenue. It should if you're doing good quality work, get paid for it, and in a sense make a living out of it, which is the big issue, you know, in the, you know, a lot of great journalists that were put out of work. Those people were the democracy. You know, they covered the stories, they try to balance the article. So the same kind of thing I try to do as well. But, you know, I look at the Google Analytics, and, you know, the story about the car that overturned, you know, gets more views than the serious article that you put together with references and details. And so, you know, you can't look at that way. You're here to do something for the community. I look at it as a community thing first. They educate the community. If they end up reading it or not, you know, it's not up to me. I put it out there, and I hope that the people do go, you know, and go to yourharrison.com and find the article. Google has picked up the website pretty well. And I think that's just to be consistent, just even if it's a small article. I love the fact that the Red Bulls are now that they're actually switching to Sports Illustrated Stadium. I haven't covered it yet. I'm glad the Red Bulls are in Harrison because I get to cover when the game is on, because the town doesn't even put when the game is on. So people are stuck in their homes, they can't get out because of traffic, and they don't even know the game was on. So because the town website doesn't cover the calendar doesn't say when the game is on. So I help people that way, and I get a story, and I'm consistent. Number of articles I do a week. Sometimes I'm better than others, but I try not to get ahead of myself. And I love this group. I mean, I'm sure there's other people out there that we do our little piece. And you know, you guys are really great. I'm just amazed at what talent there is right here. So okay, that's my input. My thing is time. I have to juggle time, and I set specific hours that I work on the website, and then I stop, and then I go on to my real job, and then I come back the next day and do the same thing. So anyone out there wants to do this, you got to be consistent, set the time, do it. All right.
Very good, John. I love you too. So we got two questions here. We got Chris and we got Oni. So you guys go ahead, just ask away.
Always start with Oni. Go ahead and unmute Oni, and if you want to turn your video on, I can spotlight you. Otherwise, you have to be a disembodied voice.
Sure. Yeah, so I work as a correspondent for the Jersey Journal between 2003 and 2007. This was when the paper was a broadsheet. So while I was assigned to do the town hall and council meetings, most of the stories I covered were about immigration, immigrants, and ethnic communities. This was the time when Hudson County started to become increasingly more diverse. And I remember there was an insert on weekends, and the stories were mainly about the community. But from there, I reported for ethnic news outlets, which essentially the same stories I covered were not far from what I did for the journal. This is actually my point is, I realized that the only difference is ethnic media primarily focuses on what matters to their communities. So when I reported about Filipinos, for example, I Filipinized the story for an ethnic media news outlet. this offers more specific, more relevant, and more culturally accurate news coverage to their communities. So this counterbalances the messages and the selection of stories of some large news outlets. So with the closure of the Journal and other newsrooms, and responding to Stephanie's question, I am hoping that we all step up and do more less about ourselves and what we wanted to do, but more on how we can upgrade and uphold the news landscape, especially in the state. Strengthen the ethnic and community media sector, because they do have a vital role to fill these information gaps in our communities. Simon mentioned this. This has something to do with this question about listening and collaborating with local news outlets. Ethnic media, there are about.
Oh, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're running pretty short on time. So if you have a question, could you just put the question out there?
Yeah, that's actually more of a comment than a question. So I'm hoping that we collaborate with ethnic media to report, because they do have English and in language, which is a far cry from the notion that they don't cover news, and if they do, they don't do it properly. So hopefully that it's something that we should look into it, rather than focusing more on what we can do by establishing a new news outlet again. That was my point. Sorry, there was no question. It was more of a comment.
You're forgiven. Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it. Anybody else up there have anything they want to say? We're about ready to wrap up then. So basically, we just want to do a recap. And so, I mean, obviously, one of the things that I think a lot of people touched on and a lot of people were pretty excited about was just the collaborative spirit here. Like, for example, I don't mind sharing with you guys, the Jersey Journal hasn't communicated with me in about 5 years, and I still don't know why. So, some people take this stuff pretty personal, and I'm glad nobody here feels that way. So, in the spirit of collaboration, I mean, something I'll suggest that maybe we could do is maybe, I don't know if we could do it every week. I mean, maybe we start like bi-weekly or something, maybe even once a month. But like what I'm thinking is maybe like we have some sort of Google document and be like, okay, like Monday, I'm going to this presser. Tuesday, Al's going to that presser. Then Wednesday seem to be what all the meetings are. So like Jersey City, Bayonne, Hoboken all meet on Wednesday, their city councils. And like also your Union City, North Bergen, Guttenberg, a lot of them meet on Wednesday. So like what we could do is maybe, obviously based on everyone's comfort level, just a suggestion, we could put that somewhere where everyone could read it, which I think would be easiest in a Google Doc, and be like, okay, well, there's no way I'm going to get to Guttenberg on this day. Why doesn't, Adrienne go that on, Thursday? And then like on Tuesday, I'll go to Union City, and Wednesday, Al will go to Bayonne. Like, just making that up off the top of my head. But I think everyone gets the gist. I mean, what is everybody's opinion on that type of collaborative effort?
We're all for it.
Collaboration. Yeah.
Awesome. And of course, the center is happy to help facilitate that, especially considering the things we talked about with regard to time constraints. That's part of what we do, and that's part of what we're good at. So whether it's setting up a listserv that, Hudson County media can talk and exchange information about, or it's hosting, informal, private, not public, sort of Chatham House rules calls where you guys can just, find out even if people are asking the same questions, even if they don't have answers. I want to thank all of you so much for all this. And thank you for those of you who stayed on the call. As we mentioned at the beginning, this was recorded, so we're going to send out a summary with one of those fun AI, note-taking things that everybody loves. I think there's like 14 of those bots on this call alone. So we're counting those as our No, I think I have 2 of mine. So we will be counting those as our attendees in our annual report. I'm kidding.
As you should.
Yeah. No. So look for an email from me once the recording's done processing. I will also send me your Instagram and your social handles if you want, because I'll be clipping them as well and sharing some of the insights you've shared. And I really appreciate you all and taking this time. And we'll also share contact information for our wonderful hosts and panelists in case anybody wants to follow up and collaborate further, assuming they permit us to share that, which I hope they will. So thank you again. We appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Hopefully we'll see you all after the new year.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. Appreciate your time.
So much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.